Jake Paul just got destroyed by boxing experts after an embarrassing KO in sparring. This isn't your average, oh no, he got tagged situation. We're talking flat on the canvas, lights out KO. And let me tell you, the boxing experts are having a field day. Jake has been posing as a pro boxer for quite some time now, so it's about time he's exposed by the seasoned professionals in the game. His recent sparring failure is nothing but proof that the problem child isn't as good as he claims to be. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's break it down. The problem child is in deep waters as boxing pros are exposing him after he hit the canvas in a recent sparring session. Let's not forget that this KO leak comes just as Jake Paul is gearing up for what's being called the biggest fights of his career. Yep, the athlete is set to step into the ring with Mike Perry on July 20th and then gear up for the biggest fight of his career with Mike Tyson on November 15th, 2024. Now, you'd expect him to be doing a little better than coming face-to-face with the canvas. But nope, Jake being Jake, he's riding on overconfidence, and this is going to cost him a lot. I mean, the whole fight world is already against him and putting him on a blast. Take it from the UFC commentator, Joe Rogan. Joe's been trying to knock some sense into Paul since day one. "Don't fight Tyson, you'll regret it, kid," he says. But you know Jake, has he ever paid attention to anything serious? All this man does is make headlines in the fight world by challenging everyone and their mothers in the ring. Joe's been trying to expose Jake for being a fraud and a con man for a long time now, but some fight fans had trouble believing him. Well, after this recent sparring KO, I'm sure those doubts have left the scene. Here's what Joe's saying. This is embarrassing. It's like watching a kid play fight in his backyard. The UFC commentator has been warning Jake to think twice before stepping into the ring with any seasoned professionals, because you don't really know how it'll end for him. But the problem child? He doesn't respond well to warnings, and he sure as hell made the biggest mistake of his life calling out Mike Tyson. Yeah, he's 58 years old now, but this man is still a total beast. Rogan's been Paul warning him since the start. You don't just wake up one day and decide you want to fight Mike Tyson.
Beat Larry Holmes. I think that Mike Tyson is the best heavyweight of all time. I don't think anybody fucks with him.
Well, with his recent sparring KO, I'm not sure if Mike would even want to step into the ring with Paul. It's clear that Jake has a long way to go before putting up gloves against the best of the best. Now, other pros are hopping on the bandwagon and sharing their 2 cents on the recent fiasco. It's not every day you see a boxer like Paul touch the canvas. Hear it from Timothy Bradley, who's putting Paul on a blast. He said, technically, this was a mess. Jake left himself wide open. No respect for his opponent in the ring. That's how you get knocked out cold in this game, plain and simple. Andre Ward, on the other hand, believes that the problem child simply lacks the skill to hold up against good athletes in the ring. Honestly, I'm not surprised. Jake's been relying on his athleticism and YouTube fame to carry him. But boxing is about skill, not just hype. This KO is a wake-up call, a reality check, a harsh lesson learned the hard way. Boxing legend Floyd Mayweather has always been a man of a lot of words, and he seems to give his input on everything that goes around in the fight world to stay relevant. He's made his view on this fiasco clear. Jake Paul can't fight seasoned professionals.
Jake Paul, I mean, as of right now, for what he's doing, it's good for what he's doing. But once he fights a real fighter, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, there are levels to this sport. We've got the YouTubers fighting in the ring, throwing hands in the air, and running around like little chickens. Then we've got okay athletes like Paul who have enough power to knock out opponents in the ring but not make a run for the world championship. And then we've got the top-tier names, Tyson Fury, Gervonta Davis, Shakur Stevenson, you name them. Get this, Jake Paul has been a lightning rod in the boxing world ever since he stepped into the professional ring. But let's be honest, this YouTuber turned boxer is more famous for taking jabs at the biggest names in the fight game through social media than for his technical skills in the ring. However, you can't deny the guy's hustle. Jake practically grew up on YouTube, building a massive fan base by sharing every aspect of his life, from pranks to silly dance challenges. And this transparency extends to his boxing career. Fans get a front row seat to his training routines, his victories, and yes, even his setbacks. That brings us to his latest sparring video, which has sent shockwaves through the boxing community. In the footage, Jake appears unsteady on his feet, wobbling around like he just tackled the world's most brutal leg workout. Now, every fighter has rough days in training. It's part of the process. But for Jake, there's no room for error. As a YouTuber who reinvented himself as a boxer, he's about to face two of the toughest fights of his career. The pressure is on, and everyone's waiting to see if his bravado can translate into real boxing success. So far, he's failing, and the fight world is calling him out for it. You know what happens when all this pressure builds up? You crack under it. Jake's on the brink of burnout with all these verbal smackdowns aimed at him. This guy's busy hitting the gym, and the pressure is only making things harder for the athlete. The problem child recently teared up due to boxing pros putting him on a blast for one mistake that every athlete in the game makes. They're holding him responsible for one failed sparring session, while the boxer claims to have had hundreds of successful ones. Well, I don't see those videos making rounds on the internet, Jakey.
It was back to like people just like attacking Jake Paul and like wanting to see me fail.
This guy's being roasted like a burnt marshmallow, and the boxing world is having a field day. So, what's the deal with all the Jake Paul hate lately? Let's rewind a second. It's 2020, and boom, Jake Paul enters the ring for his pro boxing debut against Anison Gibb. Epic knockout, right? The internet went wild. But hold on a sec, fight fans. Real talk, most pros knew this win wasn't exactly a challenge. Anison Gibb wasn't exactly a seasoned boxer, more like a stepping stone for Paul. Fast forward, and it's the same story. Retired MMA fighters, past their prime basketball players, Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, Nate Robinson, even Anderson Silva. Don't get me wrong, these wins were entertaining, but come on, were they proving anything? Look, Jake's been putting on a show, picking fights he knows he can win. It's easy to look good against guys pushing 50. These influencer boxing matches are fun, sure, but they ain't real boxing. Real boxing is about skill, strategy, and heart. And let's be honest, when it comes to those things, well, Jake Paul's boxing skills are still a bit of a question mark. Come on, no victory can erase the video of Paul being knocked out cold from our minds, can it? This is a bad look on the athlete, especially when his fight with Mike Perry is just around the corner. There's a reason why boxing pros are fired up. Paul isn't taking his boxing career seriously. One moment he's shouting from the rooftops, begging the biggest names to fight him. And the second he's pulling the plug on big fights like he's the king of the world. It's time Jake starts treating the sport with a little more respect before the boxing community counts him out for real this time. Well, he's given not one but two chances to prove that he's not here to play. First up, he's up against Perry. Yeah, this dude is tough as hell. Mike is a former UFC star with an impressive record, but bare knuckle is where he truly shines and dominates the game. Yep, Platinum is undefeated in bare knuckle with a record of 5-0, and it's safe to say that he's easily the league's biggest star. Now, if you're wondering about his boxing record, he's only ever stepped into the ring once against Kenneth McNeil and failed to come out on top. But that doesn't change anything, because if there's anyone who can pull off an upset, it's Perry. Jake Paul believes that Perry's going to be a walk in the park and that he's going to get a good win to cement his status as a legitimate boxer before he steps into the ring with Tyson for the biggest fight of his career. But the problem child might be in for a big bad surprise. Hear it from the pro. Former MMA star Michael Bisping has a whole different perspective. He believes that if Jake is undermining Perry's skills in the ring, he needs to think again.
But he's wrong. Mike Perry is a fighter. Mike Perry wasn't necessarily the best jiu-jitsu artist or had the best wrestling, but there's not a fight that Mike Perry won't take. I've spoken to Mike Perry on several occasions, and he is the epitome of a real fighter. And he's an absolute star in the bare knuckle. Jake Paul, I think he's made a tremendous mistake here, because he's a real fighter. He's going to get in shape. He's not afraid to mix it up. And he's going to go right at Jake.
Yeah, it's brutal out there. But here's the thing. Jake Paul can use this negativity as motivation. He can respond with action, not just words. Show the doubters his training regimen and his dedication to improvement. Let his fists, not his tweets, do the talking. With this KO fresh in everyone's minds, the pressure on Jake Paul's upcoming fights is immense. These will be his biggest tests yet. Can he overcome this setback and prove he belongs in the ring with elite competition? Or will the critics be right and this be the end of the Jake Paul boxing experiment? A lot's at stake. Oh, and as for the Mike Tyson fight, yeah, it's too soon to say anything about it. For all we know, it might not even see the light of the day. Just keep your fingers crossed and keep hoping for the best. So there you go, Fight World, that's all I have for you today. What do you think about this whole situation? Do you agree with the boxing pros destroying Jake Paul over his recent KO? Or do you think they're being too harsh on the guy? Fill the comment section with your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more boxing news. See you in the next video.